Hi everybody, my name is Cheri. Welcome to my stamp studio and welcome to the last card in my Christmas in July series. So I still have several requests, lots of requests from you guys. I wanted to use the gnomes, I wanted to use the tree lot dies. There's still a ton of stuff that I want to show you and that you want to see. So I will, next week, I will have my August card club preview. So if you're not part of the club, you'll want to see it to see if you want to join. And if you are in the club, then you'll get to see what's coming your way. It's a little bit different this month. It's going to be super fun. We're going to take a foray into fall. So I'll do that next week, and then I will do a couple of fall things, and then I'll start to hit maybe one Christmas thing a week until we get closer to September, and then I'll do a couple more. But I still have lots on my list, so if you asked for something and you didn't see it, it's noted, and I'll try to get to it. The last thing I'm going to get to, for this part of it at least, is the Santa Express suite. This suite is completely adorable. It could not be any cuter. When I did the Try It class, I was happy that I was able to get a lot of the things on there for everybody to see. They got the ribbon and the embellishment and a bunch of the designer series paper. It also has the memories and more, which were on my list for this week. You know, when you're only working with 5 or 6 days, it's not like when there's this much stuff in the catalog, you could show it even if you tried. There's no way I could do more than one video a day. But I will get to the memories and more because they're really cute. But the reason I left them out of this week is because some of the stuff I'm showing you, like the card today, they're a little bit more time consuming. If we get down to the middle of November and you still haven't made your Christmas cards, then these memories and more are going to be perfect for you. But right now, while you can still take a little bit more time and maybe take your supplies to the lake with you, or, you know, make your Christmas cards actually in July and during summer, I wanted to show you things that were just a fraction more time intensive. Not all the cards I did this week were. Some of them were designed more if you have to make 100. I know some of you are like, I make 200 Christmas cards. So those were kind of designed that way, thinking if you were bulk producing. This one you probably wouldn't bulk produce unless you have like 12 grandkids and you want to make one for each of the grandkids. But it's fun to put together. It's going to show you a lot of stuff. And this paper, the color combination, Poppy Parade, Petal Pink, Granny Apple Green, Evening Evergreen, Shaded Spruce, and Mint Macaron, it's fabulous. But this card doesn't have any ribbon, and then I'm going to pull in a couple of other things, of course, from other suites. So here's the stamp set, and then it does have dies. The dies cut out the images, and then they also, I really wanted to use a star. There was no place to put it on my card. There's a wreath and some train tracks and some other bits and pieces. It's not anything where you get the dies and you're like, I don't know what to do with those. They're just really straightforward. Then it's a fun fold, a little bit of a fun fold, and I have done it recently. So if you did Try It class, go back and refer to your Try It class. This is half kind of your Boughs of Holly card. And then if you're in Card Club, then you know that we used the note cards and envelopes with a little bit of a flip to it. But for both of you that just did those classes, then you'll be able to get some other ideas on how you use it. So I have Sweet Sorbet, and then a piece of the fabulous cardstock with all of those colors on it, and then a piece here that we're going to put on the front of our card. But let's do our stamping first. And I will tell you, this is a large photopolymer stamp, and I tried it twice because I don't always have my mat laying where I can reach it. And both times it did not stamp. So I highly recommend that you get your foam pad to use for this set because it's just a large stamp set. So I'm going to use both the, I guess the caboose and the engine of Santa's train, but they both didn't fit. And so I stamped them both, and I thought, I really want to make these fit because if I didn't have the caboose, there wasn't any place to put the little thing of packages, and I chose the designer series paper because I liked the packages. So you'll see how I made it fit, and it fits really well. And it's got the little clouds that come up out of the locomotive. So we'll get these on here. The small one's stamped fine. It was mainly Santa. There was a little bit of a gap that I could have lived with on that one. But Santa, his whole arm was missing the first time, and then his face was missing the second time. So, you know, if you're doing a Santa sleigh, you really kind of have to have Santa on there, huh? And you do want to make sure that you ink it well, again, because it's a large stamp set. But as soon as I put it on the foam pad, it stamps fine. It's big though, so you want to make sure that you press right there in the middle. My nails, I realized, look kind of like they match the paper, but they are summer nails, and this is a Christmas card. It's just a fluky thing that the colors are the same. So there we have that, and then we'll get the little thing of gifts. Stamp that. And then I am just going to stamp on the inside of the card on one side, and on the other one, I'm going to just fussy cut this out. You could get some kind of a die if you want, because obviously that present paper is far too busy for you to stamp words on or write on. But if you want to use another larger tag and die cut that out, it would look better. But I already had a lot going on this card, so I just quit while I was ahead. So now I'm going to color this in. So here's all the colors I went with. Let's start with, and parts of this I will fast forward, so you will come back and it will be 1 nanosecond in your time and it will be magically colored, but that's not how it happens in real life. So I'm going to take my basic black, and this is dark, and I will tell you I wanted to use light, but my light one is pretty dry. I didn't realize it was that dry. So I'm just going to give a couple of highlights, mainly to the spokes. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color the whole caboose. That way I don't have to go back later if it doesn't have everything on it. Now I'm going to do dark smoky slate. Just kind of get the edges of these. And I shouldn't be coloring on this. I told myself I put the paper under there so I would remember to take it out. Just want all of my shading dark is going to be to my left hand side. And then I'm going to take my light smoky slate, and on this I'm just going to use the brush tip. Now to do my train, I'm going to take my, first I'm going to start with, I can't talk, start with shaded spruce. And again, I'm going to keep all my dark colors to the left-hand side. So I'm just going to add like a stripe or two. Some of them will get 2, some of them will get 3, some will just get 1 of the dark shaded spruce. And then I'm going to go back in with my light shaded spruce and color the rest of these little bits of the train. Take my parakeet and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give a dark stripe down the left-hand side and then fill the rest in with the light. So for my train, I'm going to just take my light smoky slate and just my brush tip and just kind of color the train in this way. Now, if you were doing it and not using the paper, it would be cute to maybe color it in brown or red and have it be more like an old-fashioned locomotive, but because I want mine to match the paper, I don't want to introduce any other colors really that aren't in it. I'm going to do just a couple of places of highlights with the dark smoky slate. I'm not going to blend it, I'm just going to let it be dark on its own. On this little chimney stack here, I'm going to do Poppy. And then Evening Evergreen. I'm going to do Poppy right here. Some of this is going to get covered up in it when we put the wreath on. So it just needs some color behind it. Now let's do Santa. So I did him in sorbet because that's what my paper is for the background. So take the dark. And again, we're going to do all of the light over on the left. And then I'm going to leave some parts, obviously, of his Santa's outfit that can get puff paint on them. So his mittens and his beard and the middle of his hat. I debated between the bottom and the middle because it really should be the bottom, right? That even has the little dots on it. But for artistic purposes, it looked better if it didn't touch his face because it was already going to get a bunch of puff paint. Now, one thing I love about the paper in this set is that the Santas come in all shades. Like if there's a shade you're looking for your Santa, you're going to find it there. And so now when you color them, my natural inclination was to go to my new natural tone blends. But like I said, I didn't want to, I think I better use this tip. I didn't want to introduce many colors that aren't in the paper. And Petal Pink is one of our flush tones. And before we had the naturals, it was one of the flush tones. It's a bit on the pink side, but it looks good on this card because my card has Petal Pink in it. So for this one, I just went ahead and chose Petal Pink, even though with all those new natural tones, there was 10 other colors I would have liked to have used, but this one works for this. Now then I was left with the inside of the windows, and I didn't want them to be white. I wanted it to look like it was looking into the train, right? Because it's still looking into the train, but I didn't want to do gray because there's already a lot of smoky slate on here. So I took my ivory blend, which again was a skin tone before we had the naturals. So see, you could either be a pink or a tan skin tone, and then there was the bronze. That's what color I want to be right now. I wish I was outside in the pool. It's a beautiful day and it's Friday, so this is it for me when I'm done today. So I just added this little bit here of the ivory, and then I went back and I did do smoky slate, so it gives it just a different bit of a tone of smoky slate. And same thing over here. So I made sure, especially where the train was, the two sections were touching, that got the ivory on it. And I think it works. Right now it looks a little like a hot mess. So you have that, and then I took my color lifter, and this will kind of blend it all around. And again, I just used my brush tip. And you have to be careful when you use the color lifter on giant spaces like this, because if you put too much in your project, it will keep blending, and it's going to blend right into your other sections. So the sections we're actually coloring this in are large enough to handle it, but you don't want it to blend into the others and start bleeding especially on this one, your train. And then look, I need some right here. It's an obvious white when you miss it. So now he's in there, and see, it's the same shade of gray because it's still smoky slate. It just has that little introduction of brown with it. Okay, let's do the presents. And for those, I went back to the Petal Pink. So this is Petal Pink, which looks very orange until it dries. It's one of those blends that has a way different color. And then go down a little bit past the present. And then we'll get light Petal Pink. And right now that doesn't look great, but when you put it on with the paper, it looks fabulous. And then let's do our dark evergreen. I did these opposite than I did my other one, I think. I think the other one, these are the up ones, but it doesn't matter. And then I did parakeet. And this you can just kind of take the brush tip and brush right over that evergreen. As long as you don't go long, it's not going to blend it. And then I did poppy because we didn't use it a lot. And Santa's in sorbet, so this kind of makes it look a little bit different. And then this little guy here, you can do him whatever color. I didn't want him any of the colors I just used. So I don't remember what I did the first time. Let's do light sorbet. Okay. Now we will cut these out. So I am going to do, there's 4 things on here. Well, there's really 5 because these little smoke puffs come in 2s. And let me remember, I think it goes this way. So those 2 attach, and then this one attaches, but it doesn't fit next to that. That's why there's 2, because they couldn't, they would have had to make one giant piece with holes in it. So I'm sure that was better, but because we're gonna cut multiple things, I'll send this through first. So now we've got the last puff of smoke and the gift in the caboose. And then I wanted to show you where I got my next papers. So when you use 6x6 paper, a lot of times there ends up being kind of strips left, depending, like if you do a 4-inch card or something, then you have these little pieces left. I always just stick them back in here. The train track fits perfectly on this glitter white. This is from the Candy Cane Suite. And a lot of times we would just think this is trash, right? This little piece of white. But I was able to use it. Then I took, there is a bow in the set, and I ran a bow through the red. And then I had scraps on my desk. If you've been watching my series this week, you know I've used a lot of this. And I had a little scrap, and I ran a wreath through. Now, when I went to put them on the card, they didn't fit full, so I've cut them in half, so I don't need to run another one because I still have the other halves laying there of that. But you would need the first time you make this card to do a full one. So now let's do the fun fold part of this card. So I have just a regular half sheet of cardstock. You are going to need a ruler on this, and I have several of these, and this is probably my most horrible one. You can tend to pick them up. Well, you used to get them like 25 cents at antique stores. They're not 25 cents anymore, but sometimes at garage sales, and it's just like the little sewing ruler, and it's perfect for just being on your desk. So I'm going to take my light sorbet, because this is the best way to not have to use your scoring blade, if that makes you, if you don't, I know a lot of you tell me that you don't like it. So this is an easy fun fold to do this way. So I'm going to mark 2 inches here. And then I'm going to go from the top of the card to my 2-inch line. And if you do it in the light version of the color of cardstock that you're using, if you don't cut it all off, you're not going to notice it. And then down here, I'm going to do 1 3/4. And I'm going to go from my 1 3/4 up to the corner, which this ruler barely fits. So just like that. Then I need to lay this in. And then you are going to just put this line right here and then scooch it over just a fraction. So it's not exactly a measurement. But for this, it's not any kind of folding mechanism, so it doesn't matter. But you want to try to get some of that blend to the cut off side. See, it's this way. So I've got that. And then do the exact same thing here, where you put this on the line and then just scooch it over a little bit, so the blend is going to go on the cutoff part. And now we have our fun fold. But we need the piece that goes on the front. So I'm going to take this one. You could have measured it both at the same time. So I'm going to take this. I am going to take my color lifter, which will leave a spot. And I'm going to do the same measurements, but this piece of paper is 5 1/4 by 4. So when I cut it, it's going to be smaller because the paper's smaller. So mark that. And then from the corner to the 2. It got red on it off of my ruler. And then down here, I'm going to do 1 3/4. Mark that. Actually gives it kind of a fun look. That could be some kind of a technique one day. And then from the 1 3/4 up to this corner. It's because there is red from your blend that gets on the side of that, and it's not dry. But I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to cut this, and in just a second you will see it. It's the right angles because we started with the same measurements. And you can see there's 3 houses and a few Christmas trees. Only one's going to fit. So I'm going to make sure that I get all of this one on here. So you want it to be straight, which is a little bit hard to do because of the point. So I have the full house, a tree, and then the start of a house, or I can move it this way and lose most of that house and have the snowflakes, which I like that. And then you want it as high up as you can go, but you don't want to cut the house off because our sleigh is going to go down here. And then this gets run through with 2 clear plates. So here we go, that's run through. It's an adorable little folder. It comes with this one, and then mountains are both a part of the suite. So now we just have to stick this together, but I have a couple of tips for you. So if you stop watching the video now and then your card doesn't go together right, it's because you didn't finish watching to the end. So we're gonna stick this on. You could use this side too. It's not as cute as the other one though. So do it if you want, but this is better. So this lines up in there. This does need to have, it helps if it's all the way flat, so just go ahead and use your bone folder. Now we are going to stick this on here. And then the first thing we're going to add is our train track. And I want it to go the whole length of the train track, so I just made it go the whole length. This is one of the tips that you have. So I would use your fine tip glue, but for time on this video, I'm just going to use seal. So I went just off this edge and just off that edge. So now your card is closed shut, right? So just take your scissors. I have 3 pairs of scissors laying here. Sometimes I do a video and I have none, and all of a sudden somehow I've gotten 3. So you got that, and then just take your snips and work them in here, and then just trim that right off. And now that opens and it matches up perfectly. So now we are going to start with your your engine, and we're going to put it all the way to the edge, because remember, this barely fits the other part on there. Put your adhesive over here though, because if you put it the other way, you might glue this part down, which in a minute it won't matter. But right now we don't want to glue this to our card and mess the card up. So that goes there. Now the same thing is going to happen over here. So I like this little thing that connects it, right? But it makes more of my card go off. So I'm just going to go right up to even to this point, because that needs to be on there. This one you can go ahead and put your adhesive on this actual piece. And then stick it so it looks like these are matching. And then just flip your card over, and you're going to lose this. So I know it's sad, and that's why we went ahead and colored the whole thing, because you didn't have to color like the edges right there, but it was hard to know what point of the wheel, what point of the window was not going to make it onto the card. Okay, now here's another thing. When you open the card, there's this. 2 things. It's not very pretty, and it's not very stable, especially if you're giving this card to a child. So you're going to take this piece. Your adhesive's going to go on the front. And we're just going to sandwich this in there. It's also going to help hold this on, especially because I think it would be an adorable card to give to a child. But this just made it a whole lot more steady, and it's prettier. It makes your card look finished. So now we have our presents. Those are the only thing on here that go with a dimensional. And see how my packages are no longer orange. They've faded into petal pink. It's really kind of a pale papaya, and somehow they made the pale papaya so it stays papaya when you color with that blend. And then let's grab our smokestack. I think that's upside down. I don't know what direction they go, so mine are just going to go kind of all over smoky. We've got those. And then, oh, I forgot to stamp on the inside, but I'll do it now. Last time I did it and I had my puff paint on it, and I didn't want it to smush. It didn't smush, but I don't want to smush it for this. So this one says elf approved and sleigh delivered. So just stick that on this side. And then the other one I hand cut out, remember? And now I've lost it. Y'all saw me do it, so you know it's here somewhere. I couldn't find it, and I literally have not stood up from the table, so I'm going to move all my stuff in a minute, and there it shall be. So this time I'm going to do it this way. Last time I fussy cut it all the way. This time it's going to give you a little piece of room right there that you can write a note. You can also write something, you know, if it's from grandma or to your husband with a little gift card in it, or a little coupon for something. You could write it on here too. Now before you glue this in, you want to make sure that it's not showing. So that looks good. And now I'm going to watch for this. Put that right there. So it's not really centered in your card, but if you put it centered, then it's going to show out the edge. And we don't want it to show out the edge. There's a little bit sticking out up there, but it matches just perfectly with that present, so nobody's going to notice. Then remember, I have my half a wreath. And it doesn't even take quite half. So here was the Evergreen Glimmer wreath. See, that's half, and that's too big. So you just need a little section of it. And it's just going to look like it's on the front of our engine. And we can only see half of it. Because we can only see half of the engine right now, right? And then I had the half of my bow. We're just kind of going the wrong way. So here, this is what I'm going to do on this one. The other one, it worked right. I didn't think about that. It's just going to be this kind of a bow. And we're going to lose that. And then just put it right up there. So it looks like it's going around. Then our last little touch is to use puff paint. Now I have used puff paint. We had it last year. There's a couple of tips. The first time you let it come out of here, do it onto a piece of scrap paper, especially when you're using tiny things, because it has a tendency to spill, see? But once that first spill comes out, then it's a little bit better. So I'm going to add some to his beard and his mustache, his hat. And I'm just putting a tiny bit on there and then kind of dragging it. I'm not squeezing at all. I'm just letting it flow out. His cuffs and his mittens. And then here on these, you can do a little bit more. Now, if it was coming out a lot when you first did it, do these first. So to either do these or his beard first, then you can kind of see how fast it's coming. Get his eyebrows, I forgot those. Little hair over here. And then it really works best if you let it sit a minute. But you do need to heat it. So here, let me show you my other one because it's finished. And this has been, all I did was make this card, puff the paint, and then I reset up and filmed. So it's been however long I've been filming. Now you wouldn't want to set anything on top of it, but it's dry. And look how cute. Isn't that cute? I kind of like the square a little bit better because it does, after I did that the first time, I'm like, oh, there's no place to put your name. But here's how you get all of the mechanism of this to work properly. And then let's do this. So get your gun hot, because if you hold your heat over this too long, not only are you going to puff your paint, you're going to melt all your glue. So you want the gun to be hot before you start. And if you've let it set and get a little bit dry, this will go faster. But I don't want to have my camera keep running. You can see where the glue is pulling up. As long as you press it back down as soon as you're done. I'm going to dry these and then I'm going to go back and puff them. But you can re-adhere the glue if you just push everything back down. See, now it puffs. It needs to dry and then it puffs. You could probably also do it if you had, like if you were doing multiples, like go ahead and put all your puffy stuff on and then glue it on once it's dry, like come back in a couple of hours. But see, you just push it back down and everything sticks. Isn't that adorable? Super cute. So thanks for joining me this week in my Christmas in July. And like I said, I will be getting to more Christmas things, but I do have my online retreat coming up, registration for that. I'm not 100% certain. It's going to, if you watched my Art of Stamping series, it's going to be a little bit like that, but I haven't picked the stamp sets and stuff. And I'm going to have a class as well, but I go to Stampin' Up's having our leadership event in New Orleans in August, and I just don't have time to do it all. So I'm going to have a class at some point. It may overlap with the retreat, but I may give you a special if you do both of them. So that's what I have for you today. Merry Christmas and joy, and I'll catch you back here next week. Bye.